When the world is cold and grey, when nothing seems to be working, when everything seems to be against you, you can always build a Bengal tiger habitat. Hey, I'm ZSH Plays, welcome back to San Bernardino Zoo, where despite the game's issues over Christmas, today we're going to be building a tiger temple. Now before we talk about the issues I had making this episode, let's talk about what we're going to be building. We're going to be building a tiger temple based on a real place in India called the Bandhavgarh, an old abandoned fort and temple complex which is now a nature reserve because Bengal tigers and all sorts of other amazing animals live there. I thought it'd be a great idea to base a habitat on and sort of have a twist on the classic tiger temple zoos used to love back in the day. So here I am, happily building away on day one, shortly before Christmas, when bang, franchise server error. This happened pretty much all day and really made it difficult to get any building done. And worse was to come on Boxing Day, which is the day after Christmas, if you're not in a country that celebrates Boxing Day. I logged into the zoo to continue. I got an error message I'd never seen before telling me that about 100 of my habitat signs were too far away from any animals. That's not a bug I've seen before, so I clicked on it and went into the habitat, only to discover that the habitat was empty. And then I realised that about 50% of the habitats in the zoo were empty. I went into the trade centre, nothing in there. Basically, about 200 of the animals in San Bernardino Zoo had disappeared due to the numerous franchise server errors that we're having. I am currently awaiting a fix on that so that we can get the animals back. But in order to prevent any further damage, I had to load a copy of San Bernardino Zoo into sandbox mode and carry on building in that. So at some point in this episode you'll notice that our cash balance in the bottom left is going to change to unlimited, and that's because we're in sandbox mode. Once the franchise mode is fixed, I will blueprint this habitat that we're building here and then put it back into the real zoo, so to speak. Hopefully that won't be too far away. Anyway, enough about the problems, let's get back to the build. So what I'm building here is some anti-climb fencing to make sure we don't have any escaped tigers. And behind it is the pile of rocks that we built for the sloth bear habitat. So rather than having smooth concrete walls to keep the tigers in, I thought for this habitat what we'd do is get rid of the concrete, make it look really nice, and then add some anti-climb fencing to the top of it, so that the tigers in some places might be able to actually get up onto these rocks, but that doesn't matter because this fence is going to go right at the top of it, and that will prevent them being able to get in and out because of the overhang on the fence itself. I don't think tigers are the best climbers, what with them being so massive and so heavy, but they can certainly climb, so we need something like this to make sure that they are going to stay in the habitat. So just made a little bit of a custom fence, and then we're going to copy this on top of these rocks, and then we'll use this one piece of rock with some modifications to build the majority of the habitat walls. This is going to be a pretty sizable habitat, and as usual we're going to have different viewing areas for the guests. So we'll get some paths in and sort of transition down from the sloth bears into the tiger temple area. So I'm using the flattened terrain option on the paths so that we can get the paths higher than the surrounding terrain without having a curb on them. I really like this stone path from the Twilight Pack, but the curb on it is pretty gothic looking and doesn't fit with the Indian vibe that we've got here, so we use that option to make sure we don't have to see the curb. We're going to have 3 viewing areas in this habitat, one on the raised path you can see on the right here, which will be through mesh, one to the left of where we're building here, which will be slightly closer to ground level and have a view through glass, and then we're going to have a hidden little peek through in the pile of rocks you can see on the left, which is going to have the tiger's water right next to it, so that when you stand in there you'll be able to see the tiger literally right in front of you. I've stolen that wholesale from the jaguar habitat at Artis in the Netherlands, which does exactly that. And when I was there I was lucky enough that one of the black jaguar that they have came to drink from its water trough, and it was literally like less than a metre away from me. It was absolutely amazing, one of the coolest things I've seen in a zoo, so we're going to be replicating that here. Now tigers might not be big on climbing, but they absolutely love water, so water is going to play a big part in this habitat. We've built this waterfall here, and I'm just making a little pool for the water to go into, and then we're going to have a little stream that runs all the way from this water feature down to a pool near one of the viewing areas that the tiger can swim in. I'm just covering up the special effects pieces with some roots there. This is starting to look really nice. This is where the stream is going to go. We're just using the flatten to terrace tool to make the ground just low enough to get some water into here, and then we'll dig down and make a pool at the other end of the habitat, smooth off the sides, and then we'll get some water in Just want to make sure that everything's exactly right, so one bit of water will join everything up like so. Then we use some more of these rocks to get the sides of the pool in, get a nice sort of semi-natural zooey kind of look. You can see we're right in front of the glass viewing gallery here. We've got some rocks as well. Use some of the aquatic rocks and place these all the way along the side of the stream here to again get a natural kind of looking join between the terrain and the water. And we'll just randomly rotate these down both sides of the little stream till we get things looking nice. Once we've got these in, what we're going to do is just lay some concrete panels at the bottom of the stream, which alongside the rock texture that I've painted in, again gives us a nice sort of semi-natural man-made look, and then some rocks under the water as well just to finish things off. That looks really nice. Let's move on to the next part of the build, which is to get the terrain in. So we're going to randomly sort of raise the terrain in places and then use the roughen brush to make it a bit more interesting, and then finally the smooth brush to get things looking natural. And then it's onto the temple. This is based on one of the real temples in India, in the nature reserve there, and we're going to be using it as a sort of gateway to get the tiger from the off-show indoor part of their habitat into the on-show outdoor part of the habitat. So we're going to build a facade, some steps, a big impressive entrance, and then move this into the rocks, and then behind that will be the indoor quarters that the guests won't see. And this is going to provide a really sort of impressive way for the tiger to get in and out of that. So we're going to be using mainly the Indian pieces and the tropical pieces, and then a few of the South American temple pieces as well. Now, as good as this habitat looks when it's finished, if I may say so, why has it taken me 3 weeks to build it? Let me tell you. So originally, episode 50 of San Bernardino Zoo, which is what you saw last week, was supposed to be a gift shop build. I thought it'd be really appropriate for episode 50 to go back to where it all began in the entrance and build a beautiful gift shop in there to replace the sort of counters with food and drink and stuff that we have in there at the moment. I spent some time planning it and designing it. I was really excited about it. And then about 2 minutes before I started to build it, I suddenly started seeing all these reports of people adding gift shops into their zoos and then never being able to load those zoos again. And obviously there was absolutely no way I'm going to take that chance with San Bernardino Zoo. So I had to cancel the idea. By the way, from what I understand, the gift shop issue has been identified and fixed, and there should be a patch out very soon to address that, and people will be able to get back into any zoos that they are currently unable to get into. That is what I've seen from various support tickets floating around on the internet, so it shouldn't be too long now before that is fixed. So with the gift shop idea out of the way for the moment, I decided instead that we would build the Tiger Temple and then also add our pole-winning ostrich into the savannah as well. But unfortunately, day one of starting this build coincided with the franchise errors that I showed you earlier, and having already lost all my planning time and then a whole day of building, there was absolutely no way I was going to be able to get the Tiger Temple finished in time for episode 50. So I decided to bring forward all the sort of tidying up that I normally do before the tours in the Africa area, and concentrate entirely on the savannah for episode 50, and then move the Tiger Temple to this episode, which has enabled me to spend a bit more time on it than I would do normally. And I really hope you guys are going to like the end result. There's been a lot of work put into this one, the way that it joins onto the sloth bear habitat. I'm really happy with this whole area now. I think we'll probably have one more habitat in the Indian area, and then this area will be done and ready for its own tour. These Indonesian pieces from the tropical pack are so versatile. If you leave them as they are, they look Indonesian. If you get rid of the moss, they look almost like classic European building pieces. And if you make them more of a sandstony kind of colour like this, they work brilliantly for Indian builds as well. So using a lot of these for detailing around the temple, we're just working on the roof here. And we're also going to get a little bit of pink in here as well, which is not a colour I think I've ever used before, but that is one of the colours in the temple that I'm basing this on. There's going to be less of it. I couldn't quite get the colour I was looking for with the way that these pieces work with the flexi colour. It was just a little, I don't know, mauve maybe for my liking, but we keep a little bit of it in there. And then we're going to add some detail to these steps by making part of the rockwork look broken. So we're going to rotate this piece downwards like it's fallen down, and then squeeze in some of the temple rubble from the South America pack. And with a couple of these pieces rotated and hidden in here, we can delete some of the other bits of the tropical pieces that we used to actually build this. And what we're going to end up with is it will look like a section of the wall has fallen away, like so. and I'm really happy with how that looks. Looks nice and old. Next up, we're going to create a courtyard for the temple to sit in. So we're going to make some nice custom kind of paving slabs here, using a couple of the tropical pack pieces. We'll use this brick. I'm just building it this way up, by the way, because it's a little easier to sort of visualize what's going on. But we've got this piece here. We're going to recolor this correctly and then clone this around the outside of the central piece. And what we'll end up with is a nice three-dimensional looking paving slab, and then we can copy a couple of those and then flip them the right way around and use this to start building in the courtyard. So you can see the beginning of it here, clone this all the way around, and that's starting to look nice. Let's move on to the viewing gallery now. So I'm going to build a wall based on one of the walls in the nature reserve, which we can use both as a wall for the habitat itself on the guest side, and also a wall that is going to take people from the sloth bears down to the taiga, so we get a nice continuity between the two parts of this area. So we're going to use a few of the European pieces here, as well as the Indian and Indonesian pieces that we've been using throughout the build, and I'm going to replicate as perfectly as possible the wall that I saw in Bandhavgarh. I say saw, I'm only talking about pictures on the internet here. I have been lucky enough to go to India. It's an absolutely beautiful country. I loved it, but I've not been to this particular nature reserve. But I got a lot of reference photos, some incredible temples, incredible animals, and I just knew that I wanted to remake it. One of the most interesting features, we've got all this dried grass growing on top of the walls because they have been there for hundreds of years. We didn't have anything that worked like that in Planet Zoo. So what I'm doing is spinning the dring grass upside down, which gives us a really interesting look of these sort of dried plants draped and growing down from the top. And then we'll put them the right way up, use that to cover up the sort of harsh end of the pieces because they're upside down. We'll use another one of the newer grass pieces as well, or I'm not sure if this is a grass, it's some sort of plant, which will cover up the join. And it's starting to look good now. We'll put some decals in, and then we'll recolor this later to match everything else. I'm just going to place it into the glass barriers here and start covering them up and making them look good. That's the last of them. We just need to recolor it to match everything else, and there we go. That's a really nice looking viewing gallery. Way too many posts in there, we'll get rid of those later, but let's start working on the little peek through that I mentioned at the start. So we've got this rock wall here, and what we're going to do is start deleting the rocks so we can get our guests into here. And then the rocks that are left, we will move them so that they are looking nice and natural. I want this to be really small, like the one that I saw at Artist, so it's really like personal experience. It's not like advertised, it's not obvious that it's there, and you might be the only person in there, but you'll have an amazing view if the tiger happens to be drinking from his water trough. We're going to drop a few of these arch pieces in to provide a roof and get them to the right height so there's a good view into the habitat from here. And once I'm happy with the position of those, we'll just use a load of these to get a nice roof in, chuck a few more rocks onto it, and then move one of the wall pieces that we just made in as well and start merging this with the rocks so it feels like it's sort of half architecture and half natural. So just need to make a few adjustments to that to get that to look perfect. There we go. And then we'll move on to the other side and get the water in to encourage the tiger over here so that the view is perfect. As you can see, I'm really struggling to get this in here. It is not allowing me to place it because it's too close to the barriers. So got a problem there, which means it's time for Franchise Masters. Something I only just noticed a couple of weeks ago in Planet Zoo is that some of the food and drink items like this, where you can place them depends on how you rotate them. So if you get the angle right, depending on which way you've rotated it, you can get it closer to barriers or other things that prevent you from placing them than you would be able to if they were rotated in another direction. So with it facing this way, there we go, we can get it really close to the glass, much closer than we could when it was facing the other way. So it's always worth spinning it around and seeing if you can get any closer than you thought you could do. Hope that's useful. Let's get back to the build. Next up, we're going to build a climbing platform for the tiger, and we're going to build it entirely out of the jetty dock from the aquatic pack. Why have I not used this more? Well, I've used the support post from it throughout the Africa area, and now we're going to use it to build this. The great thing about this is everything snaps together automatically, so the only sort of custom thing I'm doing here is rotating these parts so that the tiger can walk up to it rather than climb up to it. And then once we've got these bits in, if we take the jetty side panel and the jetty support posts, you can literally just snap them on like this. It is so easy. The wood texture is amazing. The way it's kind of slightly decayed and all weathered looks amazing. And you can literally just click, 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 and boom, you've built a really nice platform. We're going to do something really cool here. It's an idea I got from a creator called Alfred Supersauce, great name, on Bro Nation. I've never liked the pinata pieces, I never really used them, and then I saw a build that he did where he built a sort of Lion King style African lion habitat, and he had a load of the zebra pinatas gathered around a waterhole. It was a really nice little cute scene of these zebras like drinking from a waterhole rather than just having this random pinata stuck in the middle of the habitat, and it just looks so good. I decided to sort of replicate that a little bit here, so thanks to Alfred Supersauce for giving me the idea. But I thought we'd get a couple of the pronghorn in. They're kind of generic looking from far away. They could be some sort of Indian deer that the tiger would be hunting, but we've just got one of them drinking from the stream and another one stood on the opposite side of the stream looking out, and I really love how that looks. This mammoth build is almost complete now. All we need to do is paint in the terrain to make it a lot more interesting and a lot less green, add in a load of grass and foliage, and build a shelter behind the temple, which I'm not even going to bother showing you. It is just super simple concrete as usual. And then the habitat is complete and we can add our Bengal tiger. Let's check him out. Here he comes. What a magnificent animal. This is my favourite shots in the cinematics. I love him walking down that log there. And then off into the habitat to explore it. We got some rubbing posts on the climbing apparatus for him as well, which he likes to rub up against. And then the view from the glass viewing gallery as he gets into the water. Don't know why she's checking her phone, come on. And then as he gets out again, you can go up and explore the other viewing gallery, where we've got some food enrichment for him. I think he's just sniffing that out now, and then he can get himself up there. Here's an aerial shot of the whole thing. Don't know what that keeper's doing. He's not going to live very long acting like that. And then we got some guests coming into the area now to see the tiger eating at his feeding post here. There we go. Pretty good view from here. There's a lot of protection in front of the mesh. And then finally, we've got the little peek through. I am so happy with this. You have no idea how long I had to wait for him to actually use the water, because we've got water in the habitat already. But he finally did, and we got a shot of it. And now he's going to have a little sleep up on his platform. This is where we started today, and this is where we are now. You can't really see much of the build because of all the jungle that I put in, but the Indian forest is coming along really nicely indeed. Thank you so much for bearing with me today. As you can probably tell, I've got a cold. Sure, my voice is pretty rough to listen to, and that was a long episode. Thank you for sticking with me, and thank you to all the members who have joined over the past week. If you want your name in the zoo, then hit the join button on the channel, and you can join the Explorers Club. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye.